Welcome to News Video Clip. Back in 2020, when Donald Trump was running against Joe Biden and lost, Trump used to call Joe Biden Sleepy Joe. Well, guess who fell asleep today in the White House during a televised meeting? That's right. Donald Trump decided to take a snooze. Now, if you're listening to this on our Apple podcast or Spotify, obviously you're only getting the audio. So what the video shows is Trump literally nodding off while his cabinet members stand behind him and drone on and on. So we're going to roll the clip.
We continue our work on negotiating international trade agreements. 59 days after we stood in this office and President Trump, standing with Albert Bourla from Pfizer, announced the first of the 17 MFN deals, together with our colleagues from the Department of Commerce under Secretary Lutnick's leadership and from the U.S. Trade Representative's office under the leadership of Ambassador Greer, we negotiated a landmark agreement with the government of the United Kingdom, in which they agreed to increase significantly the amount they spend on branded pharmaceuticals for the first time in 26 years. That work continues with other countries. And third, we will continue our work with our partners in Congress to codify the principles that underpin these most favored nation deals so that.
Okay. So anyways, there's Trump falling asleep. Every now and then he kind of opens his eyes and goes back to sleep. And actually, I can't kind of really blame him that much. His cabinet member is just droning on and on and on. What the cabinet member was saying was that the Trump administration has negotiated with the UK government to import more new drugs from Pfizer. And then the guy goes on to lie and claim that's going to limit or actually lessen the cost of drugs here in the United States for Americans, which is not going to happen. Anyways, that's a complete pipe dream. Let's move on. And this is later in the same ridiculous cabinet meeting. This is Secretary of Health and Human Services, RFK Jr., humiliating himself by showing the world he can't do any math. And he may be a little hard to understand because his voice sounds like he's gargling razor blades. Anyways, we'll come back and talk about exactly what he said. So here we go.
I was reminded when the president was speaking of a conversation I had yesterday with one of the Democratic senators who was questioning me during the hearing, and she was ridiculing President Trump for his math. She was saying, is it mathematically impossible to have a drug drop by 600% cost, which he had picked? And I said, well, if the drug was $100 and it raised the price to $600, that would be a 600% rise. Well, if it drops from 600 to 100, that's a 600% savings.
All right. So anyways, that's RFK Jr. demonstrating his complete lack of understanding of basic math. And if you had a hard time understanding what he was saying, we're going to read it to you because his voice is like nails on a chalkboard. It's just so annoying. Anyways, RFK Jr. said, a Democratic senator claimed it's mathematically impossible to have a drug drop by 600%. I said, well, if the drug was $100 and it raises to $600, that would be a 600% rise. But if it drops from 600 to 100, that's a 600% savings. And then Trump mumbled, right. No, actually, that's wrong. If you understand basic elementary school math. Okay, when the drug goes up from $100 to $600, that's a 500% increase. If the drug drops from $600 down to $100, that's a $500 decrease. It's not a 600% decrease, as RFK Jr.'s tortured math is trying to convince us. He is such an idiot. He could not get a job in the private industry to save his life if his last name wasn't Kennedy, and we all know it. He's an absolute disgrace to his father, who would have made a great president, Bobby Kennedy. And since we're speaking about father and sons, let's now go over to Fox Business, where Eric Trump it went on today to announce that his company got a $24 million deal with the federal government, his dad's administration. And here he is bragging on Fox Business about this incredible business deal.
And the company's chief strategy advisor, Eric Trump, President Trump's son. Congratulations to you both. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Okay. So anyways, the company's called Foundation Future Industries, and it got a $24 million contract with the Pentagon. And I have to tell you, this is a complete ethics violation by the White House. No president before has ever given his own family members millions and millions of dollars worth of contracts. This is a complete violation of ethics. But of course, the Trump people do not follow ethics because they don't have any. They don't have any morals either. Anyways, let's move on. And this is an interesting story. There's a company called Palantir. It's a tech company that was founded after 9/11. And the whole purpose of Palantir was to help the government prevent more terrorist attacks after 9/11. And the company was co-founded by Peter Thiel, who's a big Trump stooge. Anyways, some of the Palantir employees are growing concerned because their technology is not being used to stop terrorism, but rather to help ICE agents, Trump stooges who are deporting immigrants without giving them a fair hearing. And the same ICE agents are killing Americans like Alex Preddy and Renee Good, which we all saw the videos of. In fact, that picture on the screen is when they killed Alex Preddy. So anyways, some of the Palantir employees are very concerned that they are no longer fighting a threat from the outside, which is terrorism. Wired magazine quotes a former employee as saying, "Now the threat is coming from within. I think there's a bit of an identity crisis and a bit of a challenge. We were supposed to be the ones who were preventing a lot of these abuses. Now we're not preventing them. We seem to be enabling them." Another person said, "Our involvement with ICE has been internally swept under the rug under Trump too much. We need an understanding of our involvement here." And these conversations were reported by Wired, who saw these conversations, copies of them, from the Slack app that the Palantir employees used internally. So these conversations were never meant to be made public, but thank God they were. So now Palantir, they don't like actual journalism, so they're starting to wipe these Slack conversations after 7 days. So no more of this gets out to the American public, and so that we can see their employees are feeling guilty for enabling these ICE thugs who have violated people's civil rights right and left. Alrighty, that's all the stories we have for this episode. If you want to look below the video, we do have links to all of these stories. We back up everything we say. The right-wing podcasters, Joe Rogan, Benny Johnson, Tim Pool, Jimmy Dore, they don't back up anything. They just lie like hell and cash a check. Alrighty, if you like this video, please subscribe. If you hate this video, please subscribe. And we'll see you soon with more stories. Alrighty, take care.